giant accumulation of Rocko's Modern Life scenes.
Which is interesting because in his Nickelodeon month review, he didn't really care too much about Rocko's Modern Life.
I know, because eventually, because I keep track of his Facebook page, he eventually posted about that he was starting to watch it on Netflix, and he was stunned at the adult jokes in it. He really started to get into it more, and he said if he knew about the adult jokes in it, like, he would have definitely watched it a lot more. He really didn't give a lot of Nicktoons the credit they deserved, but in his defense, he was older by that time. It is nice to see that, like, he's starting to watch cartoons now at this point, like, he's getting into, like, the Adventure Time vlogs and the Avatar vlogs, he's starting to watch some of the older Nicktoons. It's nice to see that, you know, he's starting to give them the credit that they actually do deserve.
I agree.
Sometimes the opinions the nostalgia critic puts out are actually not his own. On occasions, it's actually not his own, but the character's opinions. Like, he could, like, the nostalgia critic could hate something, but Doug himself could actually like that thing, like for Frozen.
Actually,
the song.
Yeah, the Frozen thing was a parody, but usually Doug says the nostalgia critic's opinions are his own opinions, but
it's just his way to get it out.
Over-exaggerated is the term.
Yes.
Rocko's Modern Life, a lot of people say, was, like, another, like, timeless Nicktoon. A lot of people, like, almost think that it was one of the first Nicktoons, like, and I do consider it, like, one of the first Nicktoons. I consider it...
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, it was number 4.
I consider it a road paver in terms of, like, the Nicktoons and the animation. Like, a lot of people say, wasn't Rocko's Modern Life sort of, like, one of the big inspirations for SpongeBob?
Many of the people who worked on it worked on SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Hillenburg worked on Rocko.
He did. He was one of the directors and producers for some of the episodes of Rocko's Modern Life.
Exactly. And, see, Rocko's Modern Life is a show that you really start to appreciate when you're older. Like when you're younger, some of those jokes that they use, like, just fly over your head as a kid. But when you grow up and you see the jokes that they used in Rocko's Modern Life, it is just amazing how non-existent censorship, like, really was back then.
Yeah, I remember this when the Nostalgia Critic was interviewing the people who worked on Animaniacs. The way you get through censorship is if you have a really dirty joke. And then, in order for you to overcompensate that, you throw an even more dirtier joke to basically overshadow the first one.
Yeah, and even then, like, he even asked them, how did you get, like, fingerprints past censors? And even they didn't know how that got through.
I know, that was, oh my gosh, that was probably the most hilarious innuendo joke I've ever seen in any show.
And then the teacher episode, like, Yakko, can you conjugate?
Yes.
Well, not in public. Oh, it's easy. Here, I'll conjugate with you. Good night, everybody.
I know. For some people, they actually say that Rocko's Modern Life was even better than the Ren and Stimpy show. I don't know about that, but I can say on one thing. We all know
it's on par.
Well,
like,
yeah.
In terms of, like, the jokes and the, like, in terms of animation, I do give the upper hand to Ren and Stimpy just for how detailed it was, but Rocko's Modern Life had its own little charm.
Whenever they talk about Rocko's Modern Life, they say that, you know, Ren and Stimpy went downhill when John Kay left, while every single episode of Rocko's Modern Life was consistently good.
Basically, Rocko's Modern Life didn't really have a down spiral. Like, you wonder if it would have gotten a downward spiral if it continued on. Probably, because censorship started to really hammer down.
Yeah.
But, like, for what it was, like, for the couple of years that it was around, like, really, it was probably one of the more consistent Nicktoons. Like, that might have been due to the runtime. It just really, like, when you think of, like, consistent Nicktoons, a lot of the Nicktoons that lasted longer, people say got worse as time went on. Rocko's Modern Life didn't really have the pleasure of lasting longer than it did. That was the reason it stayed so consistent.
Yeah, well, the reason why was because the Nickelodeon executives wanted Joe Murray to tone it down and make it more child-friendly, like Rugrats. And he told the Nickelodeon executives, you know what, listen, I'm not going to tone it down just because I want to be able to get a broader audience.
That's the exact same reason that John Kay left.
Yes, that is the reason why John Kay left, and that is the same reason that Rocko's Modern Life was canceled. Because he wouldn't follow the criteria of what Nickelodeon wanted him to do. And Joe Murray, when he talked about looking back on Rocko's Modern Life, he just said, you know, I just wanted it to appeal for both the kids and the adults. I wanted it to have, like, funny, gross-out moments for the kids, and I wanted to have the jokes that only the adults would get, so that it would continue to be more timeless over time.
What I like about that sort of mindset is it's starting to come back. You know, it doesn't have to just be for kids. It can also be for adults. Like a mindset that I hate is the mindset of, well, maybe you don't like the show because, you know, you're more grown up and it only appeals to kids. And it's like, no. My opinion is, if a show sucks, it sucks. A show that just appeals to kids shouldn't have that. It shouldn't be defended for that sense. It shouldn't be defended because with the argument that, you know, it was made for kids. A show should be good. A show, like, even if it's just appealing to kids, it can still suck. Like it doesn't deserve that defense. Like, I like how shows now, like, you know, Adventure Time or Steven Universe or shows like that are really starting to get back into the feel of, you know, it doesn't just have to be for kids. It can appeal to all audiences or try to appeal to all audiences. And I hope, like, you know, Craig Bartlett, which Hey Arnold will be coming up soon, has that mindset of it should never appeal just to kids. Like, should appeal to all audiences, like, and it should never be dumbed down for kids.
Exactly.
He says kids can understand a lot more than people give them credit for, and I agree with him with that. Like, you try to dumb things down for kids, that's the wrong way to go. Like, Hey Arnold proved, and we'll get to Hey Arnold, that you don't have to dumb things down for children. And I like how creators now are starting to, and people who, like, are in charge are starting to realize. Nick hasn't realized yet. They're kind of, you know, you'll get to that. But Cartoon Network and Disney Channel, I think, are starting to realize more and more, like, after the slump that they were both in, that you don't have to just appeal to kids anymore. Like, I think, like, in quoting, like, Walt Disney said himself, if you appeal just to kids, you might as well be dead. And I think he is, like, the biggest testament to that with, like, the movies that Disney has made, that, like, how timeless and ageless they are. And, like, again, like Nickelodeon has the thing where, you know, Nick is kids and that's all fine and good, but when your kids grow up, you kind of still want to try to appeal to them like best you can. And I think that that's kind of like what they've lost sight on the most.
Right.
And again, like especially looking back at, like, some of the shows like Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy, like, it's a shame to see, like, that Nick has lost that sort of mindset for the moment, but in the same breath, it's nice to see that other networks are remembering it.
That is very true.
And I hope that Skyrat brings some of that back to Nick.
Yeah. It's very interesting because when Rocko's Modern Life first came out, it got very mixed reviews. Many people just discarded it as a Ren and Stimpy clone. But nowadays, people have actually looked upon it and saw what a great show that Rocko's Modern Life was.
Rocko's Modern Life was almost like a fine wine. Got better with age. Like, people, when it first came out, people kind of disregarded it as, like you said, sort of like a Ren and Stimpy clone because that was just humor at the time. But when it started to get older and people started to watch it more, when it did re-air on 90s or all that, right?
Yes, of course.
Not that much, though.
Yeah, but, like, even then, like, it was on Netflix, and people watched it on Netflix and on YouTube and wherever they could. And really, Rocko's Modern Life was one of those shows that just got the recognition it deserved later in life.
Yes, I did.
In fact, I actually recently watched a Rocko's Modern Life anniversary thing where they got the original cast back and they did a script reading of Wacky Deli.
Yes, I saw that one. That was great.
It was great because really all the voice actors sound exactly the same, and, you know, it was just awesome to hear the voices again and just see, like, the fans' reactions, like how popular it really still is.
Yep, it still is popular to this day. So Legends of the Hidden Temple, I mean, wow. I mean, this was definitely a huge step up from all the previous game shows that we had, like Get the Picture, Nick Arcade, and Guts. It combined pretty much everything into one. It had the action moments from Guts, you had the quiz shows from Get the Picture, and you had, basically, you had a mixture of mythology and history, and, you know, many people have very fond memories over Legends.
Legends of the Hidden Temple, I do agree that it was a great show. It was definitely one of the best Nickelodeon game shows, like, I believe that's, like, ever been made. It basically, again, did everything that, like, Guts and Nick Arcade and such were trying to do, and took them to the next level. It had the obstacles, it had the quizzes, it had, like, the little history lessons in it. It basically tried and did better than, like, some of the Nick Arcade, Nick Arcade and Guts and all them before it. And it definitely succeeded more, and definitely was more memorable than them, even though, people still remember Guts a lot, and people still remember Nick Arcade a lot. A lot of people definitely seem to have a lot more fond memories of Legends of the Hidden Temple than those other game shows, and I think that's a testament to how good it was. I again said, I still don't think it's better than Double Dare, but I have it on par with Double Dare. And again, that just goes to show you how popular it was, really, in terms of, like, how many people liked it. Yeah, I like Legends of the Hidden Temple. Like, it was definitely a great show. Definitely a great game show. And again, it really set the bar for the other ones that would come, and the ones that would follow. Like, great game show, great obstacles, great quizzes, and just all around, definitely memorable, as you can tell by it winning that tournament.
Yes, that is true. And not to mention that it had over 120 episodes.
Yeah, it lasted a while.
Despite people having a 26% chance of winning the game.
Yeah, well, you wonder how that would go over. Like, you eventually would want to see people win the game. Like, seeing people lose all the time kind of sucks for, like, a kid,
Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, like, if you see a bunch of people lose, seeing the one that wins is kind of a triumph.
Mm-hmm.
So, in both senses, it was good,
Yeah. I think the best thing about the show is Olmec. People discuss about Legends, they either talk about Olmec or the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Yeah, those were definitely the two big standouts of the show.
Alright, now let's get into the final show that came out in 1993, which it was a show that didn't get appreciated until much later on, and that is The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Pete and Pete.
Starring the greatest show ever.
Danny Tamborelli and, was it Jimmy or Joey in Grand Theft Auto 5?
Yeah, I think he was, Jimmy.
Yeah, he was the kid in Grand Theft Auto 5. I still think that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike Morona, Danny Tamborelli, you had all these people from Pete and Pete. Now, it started off as shorts back in 1989, and then eventually it became its own TV series in 93. But, yeah, it was a show that was very avant-garde with everything. The setting was very surreal. The humor was very different. It had a lot of independent feel to it.
The theme song was timeless.
Yeah, the theme song was also timeless. But at the same time, it definitely represents the time period of indie rock, how, that kind of influence of music was starting to grow back then.
This was kind of like when Nirvana was starting to get big.
Yeah, exactly. When Nirvana was starting to get big, but before NSYNC and Britney Spears started to become popular.
Yeah, that's like mid-90s.
Yeah,
yeah. We were kind of in that, like, Seattle was the most popular city in the world sort of thing.
Yeah, so Pete and Pete took place in upstate New York, and it was mostly focusing on the everyday lives of Pete and Pete. Big Pete, he had, his teenage problems with and then Little Pete had his little kid problems, and he was alongside with his, best friend Artie, the strongest man in the world. Then, basically each episode, it related to kids, but there were some moments in which you could never see actually happen. Like, for example, what about the episode that involved with Big Pete killing off the mascot, which is a squid in a bucket? And then there was the episode that involved with, Little Pete trying to find the music that he forgot about, and he wanted to rekindle it back. And then there was the episode in which it involved with Big Pete going on the bus, the field trip going horribly wrong. Then there's the Halloween episode. Then there's the Christmas episode. And basically, the first two seasons of Pete and Pete, it was basically focusing on a whole bunch of, the teenagers and the kids and the adults that were getting into it. In the book Slimes, college students were actually getting into Pete and Pete.
And that just goes to show you how, like, broad the range was for the show. Just